Pak, ini airtime-nya mahal, Pak. Itu, Pak, ngiklanin rokok, Pak.
Actually, I got it. Irawan, jangan listen to me ya. I got it for $90 per, kalau di Indonesia bilang one slop.
Oke.
But di sini one box itu $90. Which is okay, and I mean, it's something really scarce, so.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening from Jakarta, Indonesia. Good morning and good afternoon from all over the world. Audiences from that joining us from all over the world who are participating today from both in Zoom application and YouTube channel. Welcome to the NINT webinar series hosted by the IES Foundation Indonesia. This time, our webinar will discuss the international career in journalism. My name is Ganda Baskara. I will be your host today and will moderating the session for the next 90 minutes of your time. And from the bottom of our heart, thank you very much for your kind interest and spare your weekend tonight to have a date with us because it's Saturday night. So it's nice to have a date and talking and a discussion about a wonderful topic tonight. I just wanted just to be sure this is also to check while we also waiting for all the participating join through Zoom application. If you can also chat in the box, please, and you can hear me fine. You probably can type and check in the box where are you joining from, name your city, your country. We would love to hear, to know where you are joining us from. It's great. From Balikpapan, amazing. Awesome. So you can hear me fine. Definitely, it's a perfect. So let's getting started. Thank you very much again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. But before we're gonna start this session, I would love to have a little bit kind of a reminder in terms of the housekeeping rules, so we can run the event smoothly. Ladies and gentlemen, this webinar will be conducted in English. Hopefully you can still be available to join us. If you're joining via Zoom application, to make sure we will have a uninterrupted discussion, we would like to kindly advise to all participants to mute your microphone during the presentations. We will have the question and answer session later on after all the speakers shares their experiences. Then we encourage you to interact with us by asking questions, and you may activate or unmute yourself to speak. But before that, in order to keep the discussion smooth and also not chaotic, please use the raise hand feature on the Zoom application. I'm sure that you already are aware. And I will call your name later on so I can invite you to talk. All right. You are more than welcome to turn on your camera during the entire session so we can all see your beautiful and handsome faces. Okay, cool. Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, before we're going to jump into the next session, I will have a short video clip a little bit to play. I will ask my colleague to play it forward. Please. Thank you very much for the video. So that was a little bit presentations about IES Foundation, ladies and gentlemen. In this session, kind reminder that a little bit of introductions about our host today. Tonight, IES Foundation, as we know, is the International Standardized Test Center of English. We have TOEFL ITP, TOEFL Primary for primary school students, for junior and junior high school students, issued by the English Testing Services USA. ISF foundations also provide international English language test system in cooperation with IDP, as well as TOEIC, or standing for the test of English for International Communication, English and Training Center, other languages centers such as French, Japanese, Mandarin, Arabic, German, Korea, etc. So that's a little bit about the IES Foundation. If you would love to learn more about IES Foundation, please do visit their website on ies.or.id. Then you will have a great information about that if you want to pursue this sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a little bit about IES Foundation. And next, I would definitely very honored would like to welcome you all, the founder of IES Foundation itself, the director of IES Foundation, and she's a very close dear my boss. Used to be, we were a great colleague before. And then also we still have a great relationship, like a family. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to invite to give a remark and opening session for the IES Foundation Director, Ibu Erika Sharif. Ibu Erika, the platform is yours.
Thank you, Aganda. Wow. Good evening, everyone. We are delighted to have you today at the IES International Webinar Series 9. Hope by the end of the program, all of you will get the benefit on how to be a global journalist by listening to their experiences and expertise. This is so honored to have these 4 great journalists at this webinar. Everyone at the journalism world will know them very well. You will not regret by coming to this webinar and to hear all about their fabulous way to success. On behalf of IES Foundation, we would like to thank the speakers for giving your busy time for us and sharing your experiences to the audience, especially to young people here. We believe your information will be beneficial and bring these youth to become future global leaders that make us proud of them. Last but not least, I personally would like to thank you, my IES team, who worked hard to make a success of this event. And also thanks to you, to the moderator, Ganda, for his willingness to participate at this event. I know he's a very busy person. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ibu Erika. It's an honor for me to be able to join this, to participate in this session. Ladies and gentlemen, personally, I'm not a journalist myself. I'm not working in a media company, but I'm graduate from a communication. And to be able to host today's session, it's just amazing because we have a legend, everybody here. Just would love to greet again the people that just joining us tonight. Welcome you all. We welcome you all to come back in here, who was just joining. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are students, parents, or professional looking to enter the journalism industry, should be aware of 2 things, the good and the bad news. Now we're talking about the journalism job. So what is the bad news in terms of the job if you pursue a journalist as a career? The job market is tough. The economy is suffering. Print journalism is on the decline due to the COVID-19 happening globally of the pandemic. This is an accident in every newsroom across the country. Readership is down, circulation is down, and journalists are hurting for jobs. That being said, it doesn't mean that the journalism industry is dying, but it's shifting, it's changing towards the new paradigm of journalists. Now, on the good news, the internet has and still is giving the industry new life and new jobs. So where previous graduates would have found job as newspaper reporters, current graduates might find job as bloggers, content writers, or reporters for online newspaper and magazine, or freelancer contributor. We are in hard economic times, but the journalism industry and journalism jobs will never disappear. There will be always news, there will always be a public eager to read the news, and there will always be work for those who write the news. Now, what it takes to be seriously considered should we choose to have a career in journalism industry? What are the opportunities even beyond the newsroom? We are so lucky and privileged today to have what I call the Spartans of journalist industry from Indonesia, or we can call them a legend to share their extensive and extraordinary experiences, not only locally, not only regionally, but also globally. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce to all the panelists today to you all, our very own, first of all, Ibu Zamira Eliana Lubis. Halo Ibu Eliana, halo Ibu Zamira.
Mas, sebetulnya saya, suara saya oke?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sebetulnya saya biasanya dipanggil Tatap.
Siapa Ibu?
Tatap.
Tatap, Ibu Tatap, baik, okay. Yeah. Welcome Ibu Tatap, thank you very much for spend a little bit time to us. And the second of our panelists, we're going to speaking also Bapak Leonard Triono from Washington, D.C., United States. Selamat malam Pak Tri, panggilannya.
Ya, selamat malam.
Selamat malam. Thank you for joining us. It's in the start of the morning, in the weekend morning today. And then Bapak Bea Wiharta. Selamat malam Bapak Bea.
Selamat malam Mas Ganda.
Thank you very much.
Pak Trion.
Yes, and later on we'll also join us.
Selamat malam Mbak Tatap.
Later on, also we're joining us tonight. It's Bapak Irawan Nugroho, also joining from the United States of America. Selamat malam, Bapak Irawan.
Selamat malam, Mas Ganda. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all of the panel of the speakers tonight. We can't wait to hear from them, their experiences from this 2 decades or 3 decades of experience being as a professions in journalism career. First of all, I would love to introduce Ibu Tatap, Ibu Zamira Eliana Lubis, that's going to be presenting her first experiences. A little bit about Ibu Zamira. She's a graduate from Deakin University School of Humanities, Australian History, studying Australian History, also lecturer in University of Indonesia, Faculty of Humanities. Currently, Ibu Tatap is interpreter or translator for English and Indonesia, also vice versa in many international events and conferences. Her career highlights as a journalist covering stories from all over Indonesia, from the students' demonstration in the late 90s. So she's still a living history of what happened, a historical moment in this country. And all ethnic and religion related conflicts from Sampit to Ternate and Poso, terrorism-related events in early 2000s, and the natural disaster from Aceh to Yogyakarta. This is very interesting, Ibu Tatap. I was raised and grew in Aceh, and I'm moderating this event and session live from Yogyakarta. So it's kind of a great relation. So, okay. That's a little bit short, brief introduction about our first speaker, but I'm sure she has more than just what I'm just mentioning. We would love to hear more, but let's just hear from Ibu Zamira herself. Ibu Tatap, the platform is yours. We would love to know and please share your experience as a journalist for the entire time. The platform is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and good morning for those in the US. And I first would like to thank IS for inviting me to share my experiences working for an international media company, especially because I know actually there are many other, journalists, Indonesian journalists working for international companies, but somehow I was chosen here, so I'm really honored and proud to be here. Can I share my my PPT, please? Okay, so I would like to to beg your pardon because my PPT is very simple. That really shows that I'm not very tech savvy because I'm from the older generation. So and if you look at my title is I didn't put the word journalism there. Yeah, sorry, international career there because I believe that when you talk about journalism, either it's international, local, even the so-called citizen journalism, it's journalism. So you have to follow the same principles, you have to follow the same disciplines, and so basically, journalism is career in journalism is career in journalism, whether you work internationally or locally. Can I move to the next slide, please? And I would like to introduce you to my role model. For the young generations who don't know who Oriana Fallaci, I would like to invite you to open your Google her, and you will read a lot about this amazing journalist. Although, of course, probably I'm talking about her in her more previous career because later she became a bit Islamophobic. But the quote is really interesting because she said, the moment you give up principles and your values, you are dead. Your culture is dead. Your civilization is dead, period. And my note there is that as a journalist, you have to have principles. So I'm not saying that when you want to be a journalist, you have to develop a principle, but you have to have your principles first before you become a journalist, because without principles, don't even think about being a journalist. Yeah, I mean, at least that's what I believe. Can I move to the next slide, please? Okay. Now you may wonder why I actually chose this image, yeah? Because this will help me to tell you the story how I joined Time Magazine, because that's why I'm here. I used to work for Time Magazine for about a decade actually. So when someone asks me, what does it take for you to become a journalist? I believe if we talk about big companies, big media companies like Tempo or Compass, they will say that you will actually need time to raise, quote unquote, your journalist. But for me, Time Magazine actually had it very easy when they recruited me. It was like plucking an apple. And why is it so? Because at that time, I already finished all my training, academically, and my upbringing was already kind of finished. So when Time picked me up and recruited me, I was already ready to explore. And they didn't need anything to any training to add for me. And which brings me to the story how I started to join Time Magazine, because I got a lot of questions about that. I used to study in Australia, and then I befriend many Australians. And one of my friends was David Lipholt. Some of my peers, colleagues from my era might remember that at that time, David actually was the reporter of Time in Jakarta. But I befriend David from another friend, Australian friend of mine. And then whenever David wrote a story, uh, wherever he was around Indonesia, he would call me to ask about things, to ask for sources, to ask about background knowledge. And that actually impressed my editor, his editor. And then later his editor somehow found that David actually got all his very good knowledge from me. So then the editor started to recruit me. And then I started to join. Wait, that was actually about 97, 96, 97, because at the time, if you remember PDI, let's look back to history of late 1990s. PDI office was attacked, and then Time saw that this was about the beginning of the fall of the regime. So they needed more people. Anyway, so that brings me to my next slide, actually. Next slide, please. So this is my journey. I was recruited by Time. I never applied. They actually came to me and offered me the job. And the first keyword that the lesson learned from there is network. As I said earlier, if we go back to the plucking the apple thing, when I was ready, I was at that time, my network, my broad and extensive network was already established. I already graduated from university, and the word in the late 1990s, we kind of know each other because we meet on the streets. So I befriend a lot of my college friends. Mind you, I didn't have a background in journalism. My educational background was English. But basically, that's exactly what you need if you want to join international, media company. You have to know English. But my background is English literature and then history, and then I also studied. I read philosophy at Driarkara, and by that, all my college friends, wherever, at the time have become part of my huge, extensive network. And this is about late 1990s again. We, at the time, we were very open to help each other, and because we had one common enemy, and we had one common purpose at that time as journalists. So I got huge help from my network. Wherever I go, again, because at the time there were only two of us in Indonesia, so we had to cover from Sabang to Jayapura. I didn't say Sabang to Merauke because I never actually went to Merauke for Time Magazine. So I could work successfully all with this network, all with these friends. I am very, 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 very grateful of all my friends, local journalists, and my local activists. They were also helpful. And the key is, I always think that I know my own country best. So you are actually working for an international company, media company. Don't let them think that they know more about your country than you do, because this is your territory. This is and again, because my background is teaching, basically. So I believe as a journalist, one of my mission is also to educate time readers, about Indonesia. This is Indonesia for an Indonesian perspective. So don't dictate us. This is how we look at our country. I'll give you a story on that, if I may. I remember one day I got a call from Hong Kong. This is right after the news came that Munir was killed on the plane on the way to Holland. And my editor said, it's already late. We're about to print the magazine. So, but it looks like this is a good story. Why don't you write 400 words story on this guy? And I was really angry. 400 words for someone like Munir? No way. Okay? Munir needed more than that. And the world needed to know that Munir needed more than that. So eventually I wrote 4,000 words. And they dropped one page just for Munir. Yeah. So that's one of the things, as I said, I wanted the world to know about Indonesia, what's important for Indonesia. And of course, prepare, read. What I said about prepare, of course, I believe that whatever story that I was going to write, whether it was about the dangdut singer Indro Daratista, whom once I followed down to Kalimantan, whatever, I always prepare myself with the same seriousness. Either it was a very simple story, or it was about something as big as, for instance, the biggest story that I did was Suharto Inc. story. That was the biggest research that I did. But research, read, because without preparation, I would be nothing. Yeah. And I guess as when you graduated from university, I guess you know that preparedness is everything. Because before you go to exam, you have to, I wasn't a very good student. I was an SKS student, sistem kebut semester semalam. Kalau mau ujian, when I was going to an exam tomorrow, maybe I just studied that night. But you learn the lesson, right? Life is about lesson learned. You learn the lesson. If you didn't study, then you fail. So that's the same thing about equipping yourself before you go to an interview. If you're prepared, then you know what questions that you are going to ask, and you look a little bit intelligent. That you can show to your source that you're a little bit intelligent. And of course, guts. Yeah. I think Mas Bea understands what I mean about guts here. Yeah, you especially because we normally, we have to be ready to be deployed to anywhere, right? So if you don't have guts, yeah, then just take a nice work at the office and sit down and write nice stories. Yeah? And of course, lastly, stick to your principles. Yeah? And because I don't know, maybe because I'm old school. Yeah, I'm from the generation of the 90s journalist. I always think that the book by Kovac, The Elements of Journalism, is my Bible, kind of Bible. Yeah, because all the elements of journalism are there. Who you are, who you serve as a journalist, and that has been my principle. Can I move to my next slide? My next slide, please. Thank you. So this is actually my final one. So if people are informed, they will do the right thing. It's when they are not informed that they become hostages to prejudice. Yeah. If you refer to Kovac's book, then what something that I really believe in is that as a journalist, you should never have a bias. And this is from Charlene Hunter Gold. Yeah, I think those who work in the US know this lady very well. I think this is the end of my presentation. I don't think, and I think it's better that we can develop this into further discussion later. Thank you very much. I return to you, Mas Ganda Baskara.
Thank you so much, Ibu Tatap. That was a very wonderful presentation, short, brief, but we can definitely listen to a lot of wisdoms, a lot of experience coming back from all of the tragedy that happening in this country. One note that I can take on the takeaways from your presentation is about the eliminate all of the assumptions, especially when you are having a duty career as a journalist for other country reporters. So you must know about your country and never dictates about all of them. One thing that I'm really very keen and interested to ask more question to you, Ibu Tata, but maybe just keep it to you later on because we're gonna move to the next presenter. But I'm very interesting because as we know, you are the only female panelist in here. I don't want to be brought into a very gender issue. I don't want to be too sensitive, but I think might be also a great information for all of the participants today, that especially if you're also a woman and you would love to pursue a career in journalism. I just wondering what it likes to be the female journalist back then in the 90s with all of the tragedy and covering all of these news as to compare to the journalists nowadays. Probably must be a great wisdom coming from you and advice to all of us, if especially for all of the girls and the women, if they want to pursue a career. I can imagine that must be hard and tough to be a female journalist back in the 90s and covering all of these issues. But again, please keep that as in your mind as a question later on. Maybe we're going to develop later on the talk show and a question and answer session. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have questions to our panelists, please, I invite you to give a question on the chat box on the Zoom application. And if you're joining us from YouTube, you can also still interact with us by typing your question. Later on, our team will moderate and we'll hand it over the question to our groups, and then hopefully we can answer it live. Okay. Again, thank you, Ibu Tata, for the presentation. We're going to come back with you later on. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to our second panelist, the speaker. I would definitely also honored to introduce Bapak Leonard Triono. A little bit about Bapak Tri. He's currently an international broadcast journalist with the Indonesian service of the Voice of America, or maybe we know as a VOA in Washington, D.C. He's starting there since 2004 and still active till today. His previous career was he's working in public affairs specialist in the U.S. Embassy, Jakarta. He was also a young lecturer teaching English in Universitas Kristen Indonesia, or UKI, while he's also doing his job in U.S. Embassy, Jakarta. He's also an instructor or supervisor of English and cultural orientation for Indo-Chinese refugees in Riau, experiment in international living, Save the Children Federation. It's an UNHCR funded program with the United States of America. His a little bit background of education. He owned a BA in English from UKSW Salatiga and pedagogy from UKI, and last time is also earned a master's degree in communication from Universitas Indonesia. Okay, if you watch the VOA, you will definitely hear his voice later on. That probably we're not gonna hear about his presentation, but it's as if you're watching the news because he's definitely have a very great voice. But ladies and gentlemen, Patri, I will hand it over the platform to you. We would love to hear your experience in your career as a journalist, please. You're still muted, Patri.
I know. I'm sorry. It's on.
Great.
You can hear me, right?
Yes,
okay, thank
perfect.
you so
Please.
very much, the moderator, Mas Ganda Baskara, for the very kind introduction. Thank you so much. And also the organizers, Ibu Erika, Ibu Anti, right? For reaching out to, to ask me to participate in this program. I'm really honored to be able to do this this morning, actually, US time. Also to fellow presenters, I'm looking forward to having good discussion with you all, and I'm sure I will learn a lot of things from you. So I know you are all great speakers. Especially, it was so compelling to hear the presentation from Ibu Zamira, Ibu Tatap. Did you say? That was really something. I learned a lot already. While it is just the beginning, So I also would like to thank the participants for your patience and time. This is a Saturday night in Indonesia, and yet you are willing to to sit and listen to us. I hope I will be able to contribute something, but your time is really appreciated. Thank you. Before I begin, I'd like to make sure, my presence here does not represent my organization, nor will my opinion in my presentation reflect the views of my organization. Any statement in my presentation will be based upon my personal experience and observation. That's my disclaimer. I hope you don't mind. So I'm the fact of the matter is I'm working for the Voice of America, which is based in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. That's a fact of the matter, and however, I will not speak on their behalf. All right, and now I'd like to begin my presentation by touching a little bit about the current state of journalism in the U.S. And I think it's very true that it's also happening throughout the world, including Indonesia. And it was eloquently mentioned already by Mas Ganda Baskara during the introduction, which is very true. The current situation on the state of the journalism, it's sort of like dying, but it's not actually. The bad news is that, the circulation is shrinking, especially it is very true with the print media. Even the radio stations, for example, in other countries are dying. We are lucky here in the US because radio is still very popular. Everybody listens to radio. They don't always have time to sit in front of the television, so they would rather listen to the radio while doing something, while reading, while while driving, and even if you go to clinics, for example, you have your eyes exam or dental plan or whatever, you would listen to the radio right there. I mean, television is also available at the corner somewhere for some people who might wish to listen to watch the television, but radio is everywhere. When I had my teeth, taken care of, I was listening to the radio right there in the procedure room, operation room, So that's different. In the US, radio is still okay, still alive. In other countries, it may be regrettably dying. We don't know, but as Mas Ganda mentioned earlier, the bad news and the good news. And the good news, as he said, the internet brings a lot of new opportunities, So that is something that we all have to be able to capture, especially for the younger generation, like you people, the participants from Indonesia. Okay, so it's not dying, it's changing, that's all. Now, next, I'd like to provide you with just a little bit about the current state of the journalism in the US, already that, and then I'll mention about the state of the journalism schools, because whether we like it or not, excuse me, whether we like it or not, journalism school is still needed. And that is not in Indonesia, but I don't know about Indonesia. I've noticed the trend in Indonesia. Journalism school is thriving there. Communication studies are thriving in Indonesia, but in the US, it's different. The schools. Can I have the what you call that? Page 4 of my presentation, of my PP. Page 4, I think. If you can have that. If not, I'm fine. I can live without it. Thank you. Anyway, the journalism schools in the US, the enrollments have been down 33% during the past 5 years, meaning that it's no longer as popular as in the past. In a way, I mean, journalism, the schools here really have good programs. They are superb, I would say, and yet it's no longer as popular as in the past. What it means is that this opens an opportunity for other students, like from other countries, to fill the gap and to fill the seats in the classrooms, because schools have already put a lot of money. They had real investment in their programs, and yet it's no longer popular. 33%, 33. It's 33 is a good number. It's quite a bit. So let's say there used to be 20 people. Okay, the next one, the next P. That's it. The next one. I'm jumping around. The next one. Yang berikutnya ya. Yeah, that's it. 33%. Thank you. Thank you. I can read it now. So that's a lot of number. I'm sorry, my Alexa is saying something. Probably I said something. Excuse me. Okay, that's a lot. That's a good number, So what it means is that it's probably good for international students, because these schools want to survive. They want to thrive, and they want to fill the seats in their classrooms. If the interest of the students from in-country, which is domestically here from the US, is going down, then it would open up more opportunities for international students like from Indonesia. And also, in order to attract more students, a lot of these schools provide more financial aid. They are willing to put more money. They are willing to provide grants and scholarships for available for students domestically, but also in many cases internationally. You have just to be diligent in trying to research and to find financial aid. That's the current state of journalism schools in the US. I should mention about even the oldest journalism school, like School of Journalism at the Columbia University in Missouri, for example. They have experienced shrinking or smaller number of enrollments, and yet this is the oldest school. This is the school that was founded in 1808, I think, just before Columbia University, before New York University. This is the school where the code of journalistic code was written, that we all should follow throughout the world. And I mean, so that's the current situation or state of the journalism school in the US. However, I'd like to touch base on, I'd like to mention a little bit about the typical qualities, and this is very true with what Ibu Zamira mentioned earlier. She mentioned a lot of things in common that that were really very good. I would say that they are all very good, and we all should have those qualities that she mentioned. However, I'd like to continue a little bit about, to add a bit about the fact that, you know, it is related to the fact that journalism is shrinking, it's declining, yet people still want to hear the news, like Mas Ganda Subrata mentioned earlier. And of course, people have the choice to, you know, to select the news and how it is presented. You know, there are a lot of news, but people still want to have some kind of integrity. This is very important. When we want to be a journalist, the qualities that I'm going to mention are all nothing, they are nothing new actually, they are all there forever. But I just would like to remind and the fact that it is still there, that we should all follow, for example, the integrity in order to win the trust from the audience. You know, we have to be honest. We have to have the integrity, and in other words, journalists should follow strictly the journalist code of ethics. For example, I mentioned earlier that was written at the School of Journalism in Columbia University in Missouri. We should have the courage. My voice is kind of bouncing. Is it, am I still okay?
Yeah, you're still good, but probably if you also play a YouTube, that might be a double sound out there, but you're great.
Oh, there's a double sound. I'm sorry. Is it better now? No, it's not.
Perfect. Yes.
Anyway, excuse me. Anyway, I'm Ibu Samira, Ibu Tatap. Mention about the guts. You know, that is very important for a journalist, the guts. And what I would say is the courage to go deeper when we learn about something. We don't just accept it, that's it. But we want to go deeper. We want to ask more questions. We want to challenge the opinions of whoever having the opinions. And we want to do more research. And we have to, you know, for example, there is an existing information. You know, we have to do some research. Is it true? You know, we have to do some more readings, you know, some background information, etc. That's the courage, and also communication skills. This is very important. Ibu Zamira had a background in English. I happen to have the same background in English, although I'm still learning. We are all learning, but this is very important. If we want to be want to get involved, or we want to jump into an international era, I mean international scope journalism in this case, communication skills is very important. To do interview, to write stories, to do reports, and the key thing is the language. So if you all are interested in the language, in English, as part of or in addition to whatever you are learning, you are studying, maybe you are studying medicine, maybe you are studying political science, if you add that, you know, with English or any international means of communication, French, whatever, but in this case, English is the widely used English, that would be great. And don't worry about the accent. I have my very strong accent. You know, if in the US, you would hear from the broadcast, whether on TV or radio, you would hear all kinds of accents, which is fine, which is okay. Don't worry about it. You know, for example, if you listen to CNN, there used to be someone who spoke with a very Persian accent. Now it sounds much better, but like 20 years ago, it sounded like a Persian accent, for example, which is fine, which is great, as long as you speak it clearly. That is important. Don't worry about the accent, etc. And also the next thing is we talk about tech know-how, which was also mentioned by Ibu Zamira, Ibu Tatap. Especially today, like me, getting when the older generation, it's a challenge. It's a real challenge. But if I want to remain there, I want to remain engaged in the journalism, then I'm forced. I have to force myself to learn new things, technology. I have to struggle and stumble, but that's okay. I want to keep updated on these developments. So what it all needs is a willingness to learn and to explore new technologies. And I mentioned earlier about an analytical mind. That is another quality needed in journalism to afford for the person to think critically, so that when writing stories, they are not based on emotion, but facts. And I would like those qualities I quoted from the International Center for Journalists, ICFJ, which is a nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C. I would like to repeat: integrity, courage, communication skills, tech know-how, and analytical mind. I'd like to add one more. Excuse me. I would like to add one more factor to be able to enter this world, which is LUCK. How do you spell it? LUCK. Luck. The luck is, you need luck, you need blessing, whatever. It's because one may have all the qualities. One may have the background in education. Background in education is needed. Why? Because especially in journalism, employers usually would like to have someone who do not need more training. If you are a graduate of journalism, you wouldn't go. You would just be ready to do the job. You don't need special training. However, these days, of course, many people come from different fields of studies or disciplines, and they need some trainings. So that's it. So luck. I would like to return to that. Luck is very important. Sometimes, you have the training, you have the qualities, but you are not lucky, so you don't have the job. You cannot get the job, because you cannot compel yourself to the recruiter or to the, potential employer, to get the attention of the potential employer. So I mentioned these qualities, and I'd like to mention this is related to education, journalism, education, any field of education. I mentioned those qualities. As I said, the bachelor's degree in the US is very common, and nowadays more and more Indonesian schools, I understand, are recognized here also. There is an organization called World Education Foundation based in New York, and they certify international degrees. So if you have an Indonesian, like from, let's say, University of Indonesia, you can send your transcript there, and they will evaluate it. And a sarjana degree would be equivalent to BA degree here, for example. or possibly from some schools. They are really good. If you're a graduate of some other schools, then probably you would be certified as having associate degree plus, for example. It really depends on what's in the transcript that you have. So education, bachelor's degree. And this is very important. In Indonesia, Ibu mentioned about selling yourself. She didn't mention about selling yourself, but what I would say is you have to be able to sell yourself. You have to be ready to come up with all facts, if possible. Some people have, like my kid, my son, never had any experience working, but he went to multimedia school here in the US, never had a job, but he assembled all his his projects from the schools, writing samples, clips. He contributed to the campus newspapers, for example, clips, samples of his participation in local radio stations, campus radio stations, and he had a portfolio, that is readily accessible. So he was lucky. He never had any experience. He had to compete, but he's got a good job. For example, that is, the thing is, it's a willingness to sell yourself, to be ready with those things, especially for the new graduates. They don't have experience, but you can do the clips, you can have the portfolio, you can have writing samples, and they are all very important as part of your effort to sell yourself, to find a job. Another thing is in the US, I'm speaking of the experience in the US, internship is very important. It is so important that it has become part of the requirement to graduate here. You must have internships. In Indonesia, I don't know about it, but in the past, there used to be, although it's not as much as what I could see here in the US, kerja magang, in the US. It's a way of, the employers, potential employers would look at you with that as internship, as what you call it, some level of experience. That's it. Now, do I still have time?
Patri, yes, you have a little bit shorter time again. Maybe
how much
minutes?
more time?
Yes, maybe 3 minutes. You can cover it up, and then we can talk later on again.
I'm sorry, I've spoken too much. I apologize.
No,
I'm sorry.
it's all right.
Okay. Well, now let me talk about my personal experience as a journalist. So, as I said in the beginning, I work for the Voice of America based in Washington, D.C. I'm a radio broadcaster. They call it now radio. My official, what you call it, title is International Broadcast Journalist. I have to be able to broadcast on the radio. I have to be able to write contents for the web. I have to be able to sit in front of camera if needed. Fortunately, in America, in Indonesia, it's different. In America, you would see that a lot of broadcasters or anchors, whatever, they are pretty old, so don't worry if you're old like me. I still can sit in front of camera because it would be considered discrimination. So that's why you would listen to radio with an announcer who sounded like 90 years old. True, very true. And this is fine. Again, I mentioned earlier about accent, this is fine. About how old you are, doesn't matter. In the US, we are lucky you here, but in Indonesia, I don't know, maybe it's different. So that's my official title, International Broadcast journalist. We have to, with this organization, although I mentioned earlier that I'm not speaking on behalf of the organization, I have to admit that we have a particularly high standards. We have to, in everything, in our reports, in what we write, everything, we have to be consistently reliable and authoritative, and we should be accurate, objective, and comprehensive. We are held responsible if we don't do things like what is written in the charter of my organization. I can easily lose the job. It's very true. So I'm lucky working for this organization because this is funded by the US government, but I can do anything. I can write anything. I can report anything, even criticizing the government. A lot of people thought it's, the government mouthpiece, but it is not. If it is, I would not work for it. I would rather find something else. I would probably rather work for a Walmart, but because I can do things on my own, as long as I stick to the charter, which I mentioned earlier. Accuracy is very important. Objectivity is very important, and comprehensiveness is very important. When we talk about comprehensiveness, I have 30 seconds. I'd like to share my experience about coverage that I had. For example, when I covered the event at the Ground Zero in New York City, I had to make sure that my coverage was comprehensive. It would be easy to just list the rundown, report the rundown, and it would be easy. All factuals, just employing the 5 W's and plus 1 H, which is very simple, straightforward. But I had to make sure it covers all both sides. I had to make sure to add actualities, sound bites. Even I had to interview demonstrators there, to incorporate into the report. I had to interview a police officer whose friends became the victims in the 9/11 attack. I had to interview pemadam kebakaran. What is that? Firefighter, crew member, whose many friends became the victim, so I had to incorporate to that. So in order to be comprehensive. Another example is when I covered the Country Music Awards, Country Music Association Awards in Nashville, Tennessee. It would be easy to just provide the rundown of the program from A to Z and a list of the winners, A, B, C, D. But of course, I had to interview other people, provide sound bites from the speeches. I had to be diligent to attend the conferences, press conferences with the artists. I have to provide the sound bites, cuts from the speeches, for example. That is, I had to even interview someone who was pro Carrie Underwood. Why she thought Carrie Underwood, it was good that Carrie Underwood at the time won the award of the best female artist. Why she thought she deserved it. And then I had to interview someone else who didn't agree and thought that Taylor Swift should have been the winner. And why do you think Taylor Swift should be the winner? I had to interview this person, add it into the report to add some flowers, some variety, whatever, but also to make sure that we cover as much information as possible.
Patri, could you please wrap it up?
I should continue. I guess I would stop here for now, and thank you so very much for your patience and attention. Sorry for taking so much of your time. Really, I'm sorry. Thank you. And once again, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
We're really sorry as well. I hope that we have the entire Saturday night. I know that this is Malam Minggu, yeah? It was supposed to be, we have a lot of discussion, but we still have 2 more speakers on the line up. So we want to have the same experience, so we can take it all from here. But thank you again, Patri, for your sharing. And my main key takeaways from your extraordinary experiences ladies and gentlemen, there is still a chance or opportunities for even an experienced journalist to go to pursue the international career in journalism. So it's not like only for recent graduates or students, but there is a possibility, as is stated by Patri today in his presentations, that yes, if you are I don't want to call it a senior, but probably experienced journalism, that you still have an opportunity to pursue a career internationally or even globally. Again, thank you very much. And if you, we're going to discuss later on this topic, hopefully if we still have more time. Ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into the next speaker. Before that, just quick reminder, ladies and gentlemen, if you are participating in this event, and if you love to have an e-certificate from the organizer, IES Foundation, please do completing the form that is available on the chat room that our team has already shared. We will entertain only if you completed the form before the end of the sessions, because it's going to be very helpful for our team. But we will not entertain any of claim if you are requested the e-certificates after the event is already ended. So it would be great if you complete it while you are also listening to our session. Okay, hopefully that's clarified. Now, our third panel, it's Bapak Bea Wiharta. From the two panelists that we already hear from, they are the field journalists, they are the broadcaster who are actually going to the field and reporting to us later on. But if you also hear, or if you watch and reading a news, there's this also phrases, pictures spoken 1,000 words. That's exactly also a news that we see. We're not only reading it, but people say no pic is a hoax. Our next speaker is actually a photographer journalist, Bapak Bea Wiharta. His current position is actually as a Fujifilm ex-photographer. He's been working for UNICEF Indonesia, Link Aja and Link Aja Syria. His award, it's so amazing throughout Southeast Asia Pacific. He won Silver Award for IFRA Asia Award Kuala Lumpur for feature picture in 2012. He also won a grand prize Canon APAC Hong Kong, honorable mention at Sasakawa Sport Competition in Tokyo, also a merit prize, the Yonhap International Press Photo Award Seoul in South Korea. He's also have a great extensive experience in judging a portfolio, from Indonesia Photojournalism Award to Energy Award Photo Competition. He's covering throughout his entire career, he's been covering all over places like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, the Philippines, Pakistan, even Afghanistan, the war, and also Japan and China. Without any further ado, let's hear it from Pak Bea Wiharta. Pak Bea, the platform is yours. You have 15 minutes, hopefully.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Ganda, and good evening everyone. I want to share screen first. Can I share screen from my computer?
From IES, probably you can give access to Pa Bea as the co-host so he can share screen himself. Great.
Okay. Can you see my screen, my presentation now?
Yes, we can see it, Pa. Please.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for Bu Erika for believe to me, share my experience, and everybody. My daughter said, I'm from baby boomers generation, so I'm quite old for you. But okay, I've been a photojournalist at Reuters news agency for the last 20 years of my career. Actually, I'm based in Jakarta, but the assignment I've been done cover the entire ASEAN continent. At first, I took picture for several newspaper and magazine in Jakarta. Wait, before I for next slide, wait. Some picture have graphic content, so please not share for social media. I don't know why, how to stop in YouTube, but hopefully you can do it. Okay, first, when taking picture, I love sport. I'm sportman, I'm swimmer. And then I want to be a sport photographer. But my encounter with James Nahwe in 1997 in Jakarta, when Indonesia was entering in a reformation era, and Suharto was stepping down from presidency, changed my view. This is James Nahwe. He is with his driver, his object driver. And James Nahwe is the best photojournalist in the world. Then when James Nahwe walked side by side with Mbak Tatap Samira Lubis, we photojournalists in Jakarta gossiping. Who's the woman? Who she is? She is a fixer of James. No. Then all of us try to find who's the woman walked side by side with James Nahwe, because we know she maybe worked for Time magazine. Then when the story from Jakarta came out in Time magazine, so we see Samira Lubis. Oh, that's the woman. And then we amazing because Indonesian woman work for Time and work side by side with James Nahwe. Before we think she is from Bangkok or from Singaporean. No. She is Indonesia. Okay, so when I'm meet with James Nahwe, I went to him and asked, "Hi James, how can I be like you for working for international media as a photojournalist?" Then we sit together on the sidewalk. I drink my teh bottle, and James drink aqua, and he asked me many questions. Then the advice he gave me was, okay, Bea, you can find representative of international news agency in Jakarta and try to talking to them. Jim advised AP, Associated Press, Reuters, or AFP, kantor berita Perancis. Then in 1 year, I'm freelance for Reuters. My editors are Patrick de Normand, war photojournalist from France, and Ibu Eni Nuraini, a great and kind Indonesia woman. So I searching James Nahwe picture. This is one of my favorites. Okay, there are a lot of things I learned from Reuters. In a sense, I make it, there are three things. First is perspective. What is perspective? Okay, perspective is we know how do we see an event and who do we work for? We must understand the story correctly. Absolutely not bias. And we must know we represent people. So for example, if there is a conflict like in this picture, it is not the war that matters, but who is hurt, who is suffering because of the war. Who is always people. So I started to shoot picture of the people instead. This is during my assignment for Gatra during Indonesia Jakarta riot. Okay. So I always choose people in my picture. Not the war, not the soldier, but the people is more important. Second, link and access. By working for Reuters, I have a lot of links and access to learn. I met friends and asked questions to fellow Reuters photograph in all country. I was able to learn how to access the war zone. And like in the picture, this is the second trip to Afghanistan, 2001. The first in 2000, when the September 11 happened in New York. Then I raised my hand. I want to be volunteer to Kabul. Then they send me, and I need 3 weeks to make a way until I can reach Kabul at that time. And this picture in my during my second trip there. Except war, I can learn from my fellow and Reuters photographer how to properly photograph sport. So I'm going to Asian Games, I'm going to Olympics, and also I record everyday life that people rarely notice. Like this one is a mental patient during treatment in Bekasi. And this is a tsunami survivor waiting for treatment. And the third day when I reached Banda Aceh after big tsunami. The third is tell a story. How to tell story well through visual. Storytelling well through photo requires research, like Mbak Tatap say, read, research, read, then taking picture. And we must also understand an event, also patient for wait, try to find where the picture will be happen, some event, and wait, read. Okay, I think that's all. Today, I can say Reuters is where I learned to portray the world and life properly and correctly. So thank you. I'm Bea Wiharta. So if you don't mind, if you want look my work after Reuters, you can visit my Instagram with my name, Bea Wiharta. Selamat malam, terima kasih, and Pak Ganda, this is your time.
Terima kasih. Thank you so much, Pak Bea. Yes, exactly as your title as a photojournalism. You're as a photojournalist, yeah, you only speak through your pictures. When you show all of the pictures, we can tell the excitement of that. And you don't speak a lot, but you present so many as well. So thank you for sharing that. It's a really wonderful coverage. Definitely, we would love to go deeper later on in our discussion. Okay, let's jump into the last but not the least, our panel of speaker of tonight, Bapak Irawan Nugroho. Bapak Irawan is also a journalist. He was consultant for U.S. Department of State, Office of Language Services Interpreter in Washington, D.C., USA. He was also U.S. freelance journalist for Indonesian media based in D.C. So there is also an opportunity for you as pursue a career journalist as a freelancer. So maybe we're going to hear more about it from Pak Irawan later on. His experience also been working with Jawa Post, U.S. foreign correspondent for Indonesian Daily, Gamma, U.S. in the U.S. international broadcaster for VOA also in Indonesian services. Then he was also working with Seputar Indonesia. Throughout his career, he was also covering from a Gulf War in the Middle East on the starting from the 1990 to 1991. He was also reporting from the United Arab Emirates in Jordan, Kuwait, Iraq, Egypt, Israel, Palestine, International Conference of Non-Aligned Movement in Jakarta in 1992. He was also covering state visit by Prince Charles and Lady Diana in Jakarta by 1989. Now, let's hear it from Pak Irawan. The platform is yours. Pak Irawan, you're still muted. I'm sorry. Can you please unmute yourself?
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you, Mas Ganda. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Well, thank you for the invitation by the IAS. It's really a great pleasure to talk with you, everybody here. And this is a very good opportunity to share the experience that I had. Probably spent about maybe like 20, almost 30 years in journalism, and still I consider myself as a journalist. While I've been retired as a journalist and just doing something else instead of journalist. But I still love the profession. I still love writing, whatever I would like to write, and this is very, very interesting. When we talk about journalism, we talk about the probably education, or we talk about the how people educated as a journalist. But this is very ironic that I haven't been educated as a journalist. Graduated from the University of the College of School of English, but not as a journalist. But very ironic in Indonesia back in the 90s or back to the 80s that most of the journalists, they did not graduate from School of Journalism, and this is very interesting phenomenon that the journalists they don't come from School of Journalism. Someone from IPB or probably ITB or probably from UI, and they never graduate from School of Journalism, but they really want to be a journalist. There is something that's very important and very interesting here that probably that's a kind of a challenge. If you have that kind of a blood of adventure, a blood of questioning, or you want to investigate, or you want to ask more, there is something that you have in your blood, in your DNA that that drive you to be a journalist. When I came as a journalist for Jawa Post in Jakarta back to 1989, and then and one morning my boss Pak Dahlan Iskan, we had a meeting in the morning at the table, and the first lesson that I had from him was the if you want to be a journalist, you have to read all the newspaper here on the table. I said, oh my God, you have to read all the newspaper on the table before you become a journalist. This is something very challenging for me. If you have to read Kompas, you have to read Tempo, you have to read, Sinar Harapan at the time, you have to read, whatever newspaper on the table, you have to read that before, you become journalist. That's the first lesson from Pak Dahlan Iskan at the time, and this is very interesting to me. And then, we never been educated as a journalist, and at Jawa Post at the time, and you have to go to the field. just record everything what they said, what the members of parliament said at their building, or you have to go to cover the accident here and there, or you have to go to the Balai Kota in Jakarta and cover whatever. Then what happened over there, and you go to the Kemenlu, the State Department, or the Foreign Affairs Department, and cover what we have over there. And this is something that could expand your knowledge. It could expand your experience, and you can expand your networking. You can everybody over there, and then in the first less than a year working with Jawa Post in Jakarta, it's a kind of experience for me that I could cover the state visit by the Prince Charles and Lady Di at the time. It's a kind of experience that you never had before. You took the picture of Lady Di stepping down from the airplane at Halim Perdana Kusuma, and also you can see that you can meet Yasser Arafat in Jakarta in a non-aligned movement meeting at a time, or you can meet Pa Ali Alatas, the Minister of Foreign Affairs at the airport every time he returned from the state visit, from a foreign visit. So it's as a young journalist, when I was like a 26-year-old, it's amazing for me that you meet those big names like that. Can you imagine that when you were like 26, 27-year-old, and then you meet Prince Charles, you see a Lady Di, usually Pope John Paul visiting Jakarta, or you met with some minister in their building, or even when I was like less than a year and at the Jawa Post, and then I was assigned to cover the Gulf War in the Middle East. It was back in 1990 in August. I was like 26-year-old, and then Pa Dahlan gave me like $10,000. Can you imagine a 26-year-old given a $10,000 cash to go to Middle East to cover the war? I said, oh my God, I haven't even hold the US dollar, and suddenly Pa Dahlan gave me $10,000 in cash to go to war. I was like, oh my God, this is very challenging to me, that you never had that before, and I have to travel overseas. I have to stop over in Singapore when I was like in 1990, and then I have to travel to United Arab Emirates, and then to Jordan, to Bahrain, to Iraq, and Kuwait, and Egypt, and Jerusalem, and Palestinian, covering the war over there. It's for me, it's an amazing. So just a quick lesson from this experience, that for the young journalists or those who wants to pursue the career in journalism, I think that even if you don't have that experience before, but if you like to travel, if you like to like an adventures, if you have to have the kind of interesting in the interest in the adventures, in collecting something or reporting something or find something new, or expand your networking with anybody, not only the head of state, but also you can cover some the grassroots, the people in that's struggling with everyday life in their life. It's very interesting. And when you go to cover like maybe a United Nations UN conference in New York, or you have to cover the referendum in Moscow in Russia, look at the huge demonstration in Moscow in Red Square, or you have to go to in Beijing in China with Tiananmen Square. This is kind of an interesting experience that maybe you might have if you pursue in that career of journalism. But very ironic that with this new era of digitalization, with the internet, with all those high tech, the new technology here, that the world of journalism probably changed a lot here. I'll give one example. When I was in Iraq, or when I was in Jordan, well, Middle East, how you send your reports, At the time, the fax machine was maybe the most sophisticated machine at the time that we had at the time. We don't have that smartphone, or we don't have that tablet, we don't have that laptop or whatever, internet access or whatever. The fax machine to send your report is maybe the best way, the best shot that you can have it at the time. But still, it's still a report. It's still a good report that you have to send. It's a on the ground reporting that you have sent and you have to report. And this is very interesting thing. And then back then, when you look at the challenge that you have as a journalist, this is not easy. But the challenge, the more challenge you have, the more experience you have. This is probably a lifetime experience. Maybe you could choose to be an engineer, you could choose to be a doctor, or whatever profession that might be give you, a fortune, a lot of money with your salary. But not so many people have their experience, covering the war, or you're traveling, you're crossing the border from Iraq to Jordan in the middle of the night with a gunpoint of the Iraqi soldiers. This is not so many people have that kind of experience. So I feel blessed and I feel grateful that the experience as a journalist is something that maybe you have to think about it, although it's probably it could put yourself in danger. But the experience is very precious. And when we talk about the School of Journalism here in America, when we talk about the low rate of the students who wants to go to the School of Journalism, because not so many, it's how much you get paid as a journalist in Jakarta right now. Maybe Bu Samira or maybe Mas Bea Wiharta could tell me, how much the first salary of a journalist, when you enter the job market as a journalist, compare with when you were an engineer, or could be a computer engineer, or you could be IT engineer, or whatever engineer, or doctor, or whatever, or business, it's nothing. You don't get paid properly, or as a journalist at a time. I started my salary in Jakarta like as a journalist for 250,000 rupiah at that time, and you can survive with that money. And you can save some money with that little money. You can have that, you can push yourself and you become an international journalist. I thank Pak Dahlan Iskan to give me the opportunity to cover most important event in the world, from Middle East to Europe until United States here in America. And then he sent me the opportunity to be a U.S. correspondent here in Washington as a Jawa Post representative here. And that's also expand my knowledge, expand my networking, expand my experience as a journalist here in America, covering the White House, covering the visit by Pak Harto to visit President Clinton in the White House, or you covering all the election here in the United States, and all the important events. And I would like to encourage maybe some young journalists that, if you want to pursue this kind of a career, you might end up with something very, very experienced, very important and very interesting for yourself. You can enrich yourself, you can, expand your knowledge, you can have a good networking, a wide range of networking, probably all over the world. And you can join some of the international news agency, like probably like Voice of America, where I used to work with that. And you can work with CNN, Reuters, like Mas Bea, or you can work with AFP, or some other international news agency, or some Japanese news agency. You can try your shot. You can maybe try your best shot, and this is a very interesting career. And I don't want to say more about that, but if you try that, if you could accomplish that kind of challenge, I can say that this is a good shot for your life. I think that's all, Mas Gana. I don't want to say much, but I would like to say if any further discussion on this topic this morning. Thank you so much.
Great, of course. Thank you so much. Definitely, we're gonna go deeper into that. Probably one thing that I can, the key takeaways from your experience is related to Patri share, that you definitely have the luck, because not everybody have encountered to meet someone and give you $10,000 and go abroad and like just report. I mean, you definitely have the luck. So it's a very interesting thing to share. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. All of the experience shared from all of the amazing four panelists tonight. Despite of they have a different perspective and different experience in a way, but they definitely have the same amount of tenacity, the same amount of perseverance that we can learn all together what it takes to be a journalist and go seeking an international career globally. So today, now it is the time for us to have a questions and answer session. We came into the live session of discussion. You hear a lot from them. Again, if you are joining from the Zoom application, participants, if you would love to have a direct discussion from all of the panelists tonight, please do so. Please do raise your hand, and I will invite you to unmute yourself later on. But we also already have some of a list of a question coming from our participant both in YouTube and also in Zoom. We're gonna get there and let's talk. But I'm still very curious to go back again to our first speaker of tonight, to Ibu Tatap. To, if you don't mind, we hear three of them men panelists here. I would love to go back again to the female panelists. Probably. Well, I'm also seeing of the participants today from the names, quite a few of them are a female participant, and would love to hear also from your experience what it like to become first the female journalist before, and what are the opportunities to become a dedicated journalist as you are for a younger girl especially, and could you please share us about that? Especially when you also covering a great tragedy in Indonesia back then.
Thank you. Well, that's actually okay. I'll try to answer, but to be quite honest, I think if you are a female journalist, you are actually luckier. Why do I say that? Because people don't expect a female, you see. So when they see a woman, on the field, they respect you. You see, because when you were there, it's just, I guess, I mean, I'm not bragging, but I guess that actually already reflects the fact that you're brave. You see, you're, in the middle of the jungle, then you suddenly you got stopped by a bunch of military personnel in civilian clothes, fully armed. And then they were expecting gung-ho journalists facing them. And then, they saw me, diminutive me, and then they didn't know what to do. So that gave me an advantage, Look, guys, I'm here. So what do you want to do? See? So my advice to the girls, if they are interested to become journalists, especially field journalists, be brave and be confident, but of course be ready. And you always have to know what you're doing. I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Ibu Jamir. Yeah, definitely. We need to be brave. And I can't imagine. I mean, like, even me, myself, I don't know where to get that courage. And you definitely a wonderful Wonder Woman out there. Not to mention, if I go to war, I can't even go out in a very late night if it's too dark because it's so scary. later on. But thank you very much. So so what do you think about I'll have a follow-up question. Do you see any difference in a way of a journalist career or the industry media from when were you very active as a field journalist before, as to compare to the journalism world nowadays, especially not trying to be sexist here, but do you feel that it's going to be the same feeling and ambience or as your experience in nowadays? Or do you even probably there is a more opportunity for a female journalist at the moment?
I think opportunities are there, regardless of gender. Right? But I understand that my era was different. Yeah? In I guess, and also I cannot actually speak for all female journalists because I was basically a field journalist. So I don't know how I don't have the experiences of woman journalists. Let's say because my magazine was news magazine, you see, which is totally different from the woman or girl magazine, for instance. So uh, I don't actually. I'm not going to pretend that I know their experiences because I know that sexism exists. But when you're on the field, I mean, all my friends here, my male friends, they will tell you that once you're on the field, you are just on the same turf, and you protect each other, regardless of gender.
Cool.
I hope that answers it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, we can learn something. So, but do you agree if it's journalism is also still a male-dominated profession? Or
I don't think so.
no?
I don't think so. No.
Great.
Because some of the greatest journalists in the world are women, like Rihanna
Perfect.
Falaci. Yeah.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, you hear it from Ibu Tata herself that she's the one who's breaking all of these myths that no, it's not a male-dominated journalist. So, Ibu Erika, and probably later on we can have another webinar to all female journalists again, so so we can have a more perspective from them.
Mas Ganda, if I may add,
Please.
Mas Bea Winata's boss was a woman.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ibu
Great.
Eni Nuraheni.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I definitely hear and know a lot of female figures here in Indonesia that are like striving on the top. So it's just a very interesting thing to have a discussion tonight about that. Just in fact that you are just the only lady here as a speaker. But I go back into the still on you probably, and maybe we can move later on to the other speakers. We also have a question coming from our YouTube viewers, Miss Jamira. I hope that Miss Jamira is still watching live us tonight. There is, referring to your previous presentation, there is an idea of peace journalism, that you are promoting peace while acknowledging that as journalists you cannot to be neutral or unbiased. Is cover both sides still the way?
Definitely. It's cover both ways is the only way. And you have to be neutral, you have to be unbiased, and you cannot practice peace journalism if you're biased. The only thing when you're not neutral is when you have to take the side on one taking, taking, protecting, or it's when you are siding with the underprivileged. That's when you're not neutral. But on the other spectrum, it's all neutral. You have to be unbiased, especially related to peace journalism.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Ibu Tata, for answering that. And I hope Ms. Jamira, our satisfied with this answer. Maybe later on, the other panelists could be add on, but I just want to go back in. I want to go into the second question. This could be applied to all of you, but I may invite Pak perhaps to answer this one because this is related into the context of today's journalism, and would love to hear what are the perspectives from the international media newsroom itself. The question was, there is so many news now in Indonesia relied on clicks and advertising. I think it's very relevant today. Yeah? There are many pressure by the media corporation to generate revenue by clickbait. How to ensure that journalists will continue to hold their principles? I mean, this is very mutually exclusive, I think, in Indonesia, because I experienced that also. Is that also happening in international or global media, especially in the US? Pak Tri, do you have comments on that question?
Yes, sure, absolutely. That is very true. It's not only in Indonesia, but it's also in the US, everywhere in the world. That's the phenomenon these days, unfortunately. But I'd like to get back to what I said earlier. Integrity is very important in order to win the trust. The keyword here is TRUST, trust. In order to win the trust of the audience, we have to be honest, we have to be, fair, we have to be objective, we have to be, those things that I mentioned earlier, so it comes back to that, but of course, the clicks and whatever, they are needed too in order for the paper, whatever, online newspaper or magazine to keep on living, to be alive, but so it is needed. Advertisement is needed because you are privileged to be able to read the news without having to pay. Like in the past, you had to subscribe to newspapers. You had to subscribe to magazines, for example. Now it's all free. So someone has to pay for it, If you don't pay for it, someone else will have to pay for it, and that would come from the clicks, from the advertisements, So this is something that we cannot avoid. We have to live with it. But of course, good news, good media would, would still have to provide honest, fair, objective account of whatever, news, so that what you read is worthwhile, it's worth reading, or maybe with some, a little bit of distraction from the, advertisements, but, it's all needed. So in the US, it's also the same as in Indonesia. We have to live with that too.
Great. I think it's also all about the moral compass and like the ethical code of conduct. Do you think who do we cite it to the most? Do we cite it to the revenue, or like do we have to go back into our moral compass and questioning? Okay, this is not right. This is sometimes it's a very living in agony. Maybe Pak Irawan could be also answering in this perspective. What is it the difference from back then to now when you have to deal with this economy issue?
Well, back then, because Jawa Post was a print newspaper that, at the time it's a very conservative, very conventional, revenue that you get from the advertising. Then that, it's different from now that, some big, news agency like, CNN, NBC or ABC or whatever news agency, International. Can you see the important role, a very important role by the social media here that, let's say Facebook, CNN, NBC or NPR or whatever news agency, they have to take it to Facebook. So we can now we're reading newspaper, or we're reading those CNN through Facebook. Isn't it amazing that we never think before that, people leaving the conservative media or people leaving the old-fashioned media and coming to the social media and watching the something else through their social media. I never watch my TV here in my room here. I don't I don't remember when the last time that I watched TV here. But every time I turn on my computer, I see my social media. I see the CNN over there. I see the NBC. I see the NPR and everything. And this is a challenge for the conservative or the old-fashioned media. They have to change. Maybe they people will leave that old-fashioned media. The radio has to take to the social media, so everybody can watch or can listen to their stories. When we talk about revenue, back again, I said that I think everybody suffer. Even print or probably electronic journalists or pro broadcasting or whatever. You know, not government like Mastri. You get paid by the government. You don't need the revenue from the advertising or whatever. But you know if you have to try to get more audience, to get more clicks, to get more money, to get more revenue, and you have to tag to Facebook or tag to Instagram or to tag to other social media, because everybody's focusing their attention to social media. They don't watch more on the old-fashioned media here.
True, very true.
Thank you. Thank you, Pa Irawan. Still on you, Pa Irawan. It's related to also your career. Our next question is actually from our net. When you're talking Instagram, there's a question coming from the follower of Instagram from IES Depok, Pa. as you all are also doing a freelancer career, this is also could be applied to Mas Bea, yeah, later on. How to start a freelance correspondent in your company? It could be in Times, it could be Compass example. Do we have to start our own blog, or how does it work? Or sending our sample to of our writing or photography to the company? Pak Irawan, do you have any comments on that? And
Okay,
later on, probably Pak Bea can respond.
Okay. When I stopped, working with the Java Post, and then I start freelancing. Oh, I start working with the Voice of America, and then I start freelancing after that. In freelancing, you have to go to networking with your old friends back in Indonesia, because I'm here in Washington, so I have to write back or send the reports back to Indonesia. So you have to have a good network, you have a good friends, back in Jakarta, and they said, okay, can you send me stories of, the inauguration in Washington? Oh, can you send me the story of the election, or probably the coverage of Obama, campaign in Virginia here? Or you can send me the story of the killing of Indonesian people here in New York, or maybe in LA, or maybe somewhere else in America. So again, I jumped from one news agency to another, and because I have some old friends, there, and we become good friends, still good friends in doing that kind of reporting.
Thank you. Pak Bea, is that the same thing applies to you when you become a freelancer photographer to contribute with photojournalism?
Now, okay, I will answer the question for how to start freelance correspondent in India today. I think photographer is the same way. I think you must make a portfolio first, then show on your social media. Could be Facebook, could be blog, could be Instagram. And you must constantly make the same progress. Then if you brave and you think you have a strong portfolio, then you must going to the office. Compass or Reuters or AP, AFP, any kind of media, what you want to work for. So the first you must make portfolio, because easy to taking picture now. and easy to write now. But there's too many people have a portfolio, so you must bring your portfolio to the office and Compass or any kind of media. Hey, I'm Bea. I have a portfolio. You want to see? Or maybe you need freelance, or maybe you need a new journalist. I think this is the best way today, because some of my friends doing that and work.
Great. Thank you, Pak Bea. I have a follow-up question to you, especially as a photographer journalist, and in the context of nowadays, as the pandemic, it's happening and still going on until God knows when, and even the vaccines is also still a curiosity. While you are the photographer journalist and have to be on the field, have to go there and like taking a picture and capturing a moment. But nowadays, as if our mobilization is like actually limited, what are the opportunities, and how does that creativity still could be ongoing as a photographer journalist? Can we still go out there and taking pictures? And yeah, how it feels like to become a photojournalist nowadays during the pandemic?
Okay. The first, we all know what the COVID is. So before you going out, if you photographer, you must going out, taking picture, tell a story. But before you doing your job, first, you must know what COVID is. Then how you prepare when shooting. You must have a mask, you must have keep a distance, you must clean your hand. Every step, how to avoid COVID, you must doing at first. Then you going taking picture. At the last, you know the risk is. So you must prepare. If I got COVID, what I should do? Going to the hospital, or what? You must have step by step what you must doing when you confirm you got a COVID. So I mean, you must make a prepare a lot before you going out, and then you know the risk is. So when you got the COVID, you know what you must to do. I think this is the best.
Yes, I think it's also the same exact messaging as Ibu Tata just mentioned, and you have to be brave. But you can't be also stupid, because you have to well educated and respect the ideas. I think it's a very interesting point of view. But and thank you for sharing that. One more thing, but I think this is also important, as we were also mentioning about the digital era nowadays, where people all of going to Instagram, all of them going to Facebook, and people can see thousands of pictures out there. I'm interested to find out about the copyright issue. How do you feel as a photograph journalism when you take a picture and your picture is like, it could be very expensive, I believe. By the way, you have a great compliment here from our audience, Ibu Linda and Ibu Christian, mentioning that amazing picture you have. I believe that so. But you put that online, you put it in the cloud. People can actually grab your picture anywhere. What are the ethical code of conduct in here for the photograph journalism if your picture is being just steal by everybody and use it anywhere? Is there any concerns that, Pak? Pak Bea, you're still there? I think Pak Bea is gone. All right. Okay. I'm not sure what's happening with Pak Bea. I think he's been kicked out from the room. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the clock it's 9 o'clock at 9 p.m. Jakarta time. It's like pretty late, and like we still have like around 70 people are participating nowadays. We're so grateful to that. But I think we would just want to wrap it up a little bit before, and then our discussion. I would love to invite all of the panelists again. I don't want to give any assumption, or I don't want to summarize everything, because people can take summarize them for their own. But there's one thing, one question that I would love to ask to all the panelists, and perhaps you can have like 1 minute to share. How do you see the journalist industries or the news industries coming, and what are the opportunities for our participant in here? I know that Patri was actually mentioning on his presentation was like, so even if the enrollment number was like declining 33%, but there is still a lot of opportunity and financial aid offered by the institution, especially in the US. So let's take a moment in here and like give great advice to all of the audience tonight. Give some sort of positive vision to the future. Maybe Pak Irawan, while you're still here and online, you can give us an advice first.
All right. Yeah, very ironic that I haven't got any background of education in journalism, but from the experience that I see that the to become a journalist, there is some kind of a talent that you have. Probably you have some kind of a intuition that you have to know something, or you want to investigate. You raise more questions, and then you get more answers, or maybe you raise more answers or more questions to answer. You have to investigate more, and because of the field of journalism is very challenging in this era of digitalization like this. Probably we have to shift the paradigm of the education of a journalism here. That probably we have to leave the old school of journalism, but still we have to attach to the principles of journalism. That you have to be balanced, you have to be non-partial, you have to be cover both sides, or whatever it's called. We have to be true in our reporting. We have to be true in our reporting, and if you see that the opportunity as a journalist to expand your knowledge, to expand your horizon, you have to as an opportunity to travel and to learn, to know more people in the world. I think this is a good shot. It's a good shot. It's a best shot for the people who have the kind of adventures. If they want to see the outside of the world, not only in Jakarta or in Bandung or probably in Surabaya or in Depok, but what encourage the young journalists. So people want to be a journalist to try to expand their knowledge, to expand their horizon, and give it a try to the best shot that you can become a very good journalist. And I wish you the best for all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Irawan, for the advice. Pak Bea is coming back in here. Pak Bea, are you with us?
Yeah. Sorry.
Welcome back, Pak Bea. We're actually on the wrap-up session already that I asked to have a share all the panelists. But when I don't know at what time were you leaving, I have a follow-up question in terms of the copyright issue nowadays, Pak, in terms of when we are already going so much in digital, all the people are on social media, and then people can just like take pictures, anyone without even credited. How do you feel? I mean, in the music industry, there's kind of a royalty. If you use your music and if you use your artwork, you need to pay some sort of royalty issue. But nowadays, when you just put pictures, I know you are great pictures, but then your pictures you can just take it out in one. What is it like in terms of a journalist in the journalist industry? Do you have any comment on that?
Okay. Journalists now, for me, journalists now in a danger situation. I mean, I believe people still need journalists because they can see clearly, cover both sides unbiased, but this is expensive. So if you doing, if you report any event, you need more money. And then today, conventional media have the old business model. And then when the digital came, actually we cannot work with the old business model. We need the new business model. What is this? I don't know. We don't know right now. But for make journalism still exist, we need a new business model. So who will doing that? For my mind, the big media, the big conventional media, National Geographic, Time, Guardian, must have a new business model. So the small one will follow. If they found the new business model, I think journalism will survive. But if not, so we have to see, and then 3 or 5 or 10 years. So this is my answer. We need a great business model.
Yeah, I think that's just a great advice, and that's exactly, I think, the answer for all of us who are actually watching here. So the future of journalism is actually the new era of the journalism. That's why we need you. That's why we need us, all of us, to be participating. So there is a future career. When you were saying this is actually already danger, but it doesn't mean it's going to be die. But we just need a new model, and definitely. We don't have an answer at the moment, and perhaps you guys, if your students, if your daughter, if your son, if your sister, and like whoever is that would love to pursue in the career of journalism, there is a great opportunity, I think, to find and to create a new model of it. That was a perfect, Pa. I love that answer.
Can I add some?
Yes, please, Pa. Make it short.
For the journalists, recently, National Geographic have a lot of grant this time. For COVID, they have 120 grant for photojournalists all over the world. Big money. And then after COVID, they still have a new grant. And in Indonesia, I saw photojournalists get a grant, quite big money. And then maybe this is the way to make a new business model. Other National Geographic, I see Overseas Press Club provide 92 grant to photojournalists around the world. Also, Alexia, Lucy Center also have a grant, and World Press Photo send a grant to Pana Photo in Indonesia to try to find a good photojournalist. So today, a lot of grant from some a company too. Maybe this is a new business model, but I don't know exactly.
That's important information, Pat. Thank you very much. So there is an opportunity. There's money. When there's money, there's hope.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You're right, Pak Ganda.
And then so don't be discouraged. Now it is the best time to apply, because probably you might be the one who actually found the new model of the future era of the media itself. Thank you, Pak Bea, for the information. Now let's go into Ibu Tatap, especially. How do you envision on the future of magazine globally, the magazine industry, for example, as you are also been working with Time Magazine so far? Ibu Tatap?
I think for as Patri also and the others also already mentioned, in terms of print, print magazine, I think it's definitely sunset for print magazine. But I would actually refer to what Mas Bea said earlier. A new business model is needed. This internet, anything new should not discourage you, but because I'm sure when there is a new type or a new kind of way of telling stories, because basically journalism magazine actually is storytelling, right? When there are always other ways of telling stories, you see. So now we have already seen a lot of magazines actually, including Time magazine. Time was one of the first few magazines that went into time.com, for instance, right? So I don't think journalism will die, because and we will need journalism forever, because I still believe it as the one of the pillars of democracy. I think that's my last word.
Yes, thank you very much, Ibu Tatap. Now, Tri will come back. We are back to you. One of the particular questions to wrap up on the session from your side, you were also mentioning as a senior journalist that are still active still today, and you're also mentioning about that. So there is also opportunity for an experienced journalist out there, especially in Indonesia. Given the fact that nowadays there is a lot of laid over from the media company in Indonesia, there is a lot of journalists unfortunately have to lose their jobs. But when you're mentioning that, hey, even in the US, there's a lot of 90 years old people are still broadcasting from the studio. This is given a chance, an opportunity. I think it would be great to wrap up this session from you, but what it takes and what are the opportunity in the future if they want to pursue a career in journalism internationally, especially for them who already experienced journalists here in Indonesia.
Thank you very much. It is very true here that in the US, what I've been observing, for example, that there are you can easily find more senior people. People do not want to be called old, but they would rather use the term senior. Senior people, senior journalists. In terms of age, I'm talking about age. So opportunities are widely open to anyone here, because I think in a way we are fortunate in the US because of the very strict discrimination law, for example. And also there is affirmative action, for example, that guarantees opportunities to be given to all, regardless of age, especially sex, gender, sexual orientation, political orientation, religion, race, and a country of origin. That is where people take it very seriously here. So we are lucky in a way, but that means also it is an opportunity to be open to other people from other parts of the world, including Indonesia. With the internet, etc., the digital era, you have the opportunities. You can explore, you can try, you can research, you can try to apply, And I mentioned earlier about don't worry about the accent of the language. As long as you try to present yourself clearly, that's fine, So don't worry about the accent. But again, unfortunately, English is still needed. That is, if you aspire to pursue careers in international affairs, whether in journalism or anything else, unfortunately, you still need English, whether you like it or not. That's the key. So opportunities are open, are supposedly open, and should be open to all. With today's world, there is very slim bordery. Even almost no border at all. You can cross countries. So that's it. So I'm optimistic. I'm pretty old. I'm pretty senior. But again, as I said earlier, as long as we continue to learn and willing to learn and try to adjust ourselves to the technology and try to follow those trends.
Right.
That's it.
Right. Thank you. You are experienced, not an old. We need an experienced people like you, all of you, all here in the panels. Thank you very much, Patri. It's a very important messages also coming from you. I think that's not an unfortunate as well if you still need English, because there's an IES foundation in here. So there's always an opportunity for you to learn.
Good.
So to contact the IES foundation, and no worry, you can take also TOEIC. That's specifically also for the professional career. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the end of the session of today. We're again so very grateful for all of the panelists, all of the legends sharing your experience. I hope that we still have more hours to share, and probably on the next webinar series we can still talk about and discuss about that. We really appreciate all of the participants who already raised questions, but if you still have further questions about this, please do so by emailing us to the foundation. If you are still here, or the participant, if you are willing to open your camera, probably we can take a screenshot picture together digitally as a moment with all of the legend here. Bapak Ibu, jika misalnya Bapak Ibu masih bergabung dengan kita di Zoom, mohon berkenan untuk mengaktifkan kameranya. Mungkin kita bisa foto bersama terlebih dahulu, karena kapan lagi nih bisa foto bersama dengan artis-artis jurnalis nasional yang sudah go internasional. Apakah bisa diaktifkan videonya untuk para peserta? Okay. Oh, we have more. See, now we see all the beautiful faces in here. Yuk, kita mau screen capture dulu. Mungkin dari tim kami bisa membantu screen capture ya, if you don't mind. Okay, we still have people. Oh, there's more people are opening their web camera. So great. We know that all of you are listening. You're not lying down in the bed and just online pretend like you're listening. That's great. Okay, more people are coming in here. More people are coming in here. We're still waiting. I'll give you one more 30 seconds. Please opening your web camera and we can take a picture all together. Okay. Okay, I think we are ready. From IES Foundation team, could you please take a screen capture of the screen? I will count 1, 2, 3, and then we can have a freestyle, okay? In 1, 2, 3, cheers. Maybe we'll try another style ya, gaya lain kali ya. Please bergaya. Okay, 1, 2. I will also print screen in here. 1, 2, 3. Cool. All right. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think let's wrap it up. But before
Thank you.
I'm gonna close the entire session, there's still one more announcement that we need to wait. Today we were sharing from international perspective coming from the US and from all over the world. Please expect and save your dates and mark your calendar for the next event of webinar series hosted by IES Foundation. If you know this sign, you can guess what is going to be the next session. It's the Sarange Korea. Yes, we're going to Korea next season on the webinar, the 10th series of webinar. I love Sarange, South Korea. Please mark your calendar on April 1st, Thursday, 4 p.m. Jakarta time. You can register here. There is a lot of panelists coming, joining from us. from all, of course, of South Korea. And it will be also moderated by my dear friends as well. We were working together with Ibu Erika as well, Marinda Hasono. So it's going to be also fun. If you love to go to Korea, this is the time. Please do share it to your friends, share it to your colleague and your family. I think it's going to be wonderful. All right. So we definitely have a great time tonight. Thank you so very much for all the participants. We really appreciate your participation today. Thank you, IES Foundation, for hosting such a great panelist. We're so inspiring. And thank you. I'm really sorry if there is any kind of delay. You're so awesome. You can malam minggu bersama IES Foundation. So I will just close it. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sampai jumpa. Salam.